your life is on the line and you know that you're on an oxygen tank and they're going to put you on your head, see what you do. Because the bottom line is that me, I'm one person. I can never miss.
The guy's not being loyal to you. How could you be loyal to him?
Yeah.
And whether you're your father or not. So, you know, but it's always been hard because it was my father.
The word came down, this guy had to go. You know, we didn't know nothing about him until the last minute. And I liked him. I liked Bill. He was a nice guy, but...
Welcome to the show. What's good, everybody? Give me 1 minute. I'm looking for the video right now. Hope everyone's having a great night. What's good, Rockin' Rocco? How are you? Thanks to everyone that's tuning in. I appreciate you. This is part 1 of 3. It's a really good interview, so pay attention. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe. Hit the notification bell. There's a lot more to come. I'll be back after this video, please.
You know, about 5 cells. He bought all the cells and he moved in who he wanted to move in. So, you know, he had like his cook in a cell next to him. He had like his cleaner. He had like his workout partner. He had like a couple of his homies. So, you know, because he had money, so he could do that. And basically, he wouldn't go to chow hall. You know, he would have dudes who cook him food or he would cook food. He wouldn't go to the commissary. He put money on dudes' books, and they would get commissary, and they'd bring him big bags of commissary. And you know, you just kind of notice. I was in FCI Beckley with him, and dudes like them, they just kind of move differently, you know, because they got the respect and they got the money. But also, you know, when he was in, he was probably like, you know, 50 something years old. I mean, he was like a hardened criminal, like a mafia dude, you know, and they always say like in the Gambinos, he wasn't made, but he was basically like an honorary capo.
Welcome to this episode of Chattin with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Seth Ferranti. I really appreciate you taking the time and coming on my show. You have a crazy story. You spent a lot of time in prison for a nonviolent drug offense, and this happened in '93, right?
Yeah, my case is from '91. That's when the case came down, but I took off. You know, I had jackrabbit in my blood, so you know I wasn't trying to do no time. I had a little bit of money. You know, I likened myself as a kind of counterculture rebel outlaw. So when the indictments came down, I took off, man. I was a fugitive for 2 years. For some reason, I think they made me like top 15 U.S. Marshals list. I don't know. I was like a first-time nonviolent offender. I think it was because, you know, I was from the suburbs. I grew up like, you know, middle class, upper middle class. So, you know, usually when they bust somebody, you know, from those type of areas, you know, I guess they thought I was going to snitch on everybody, and I didn't. So, you know, when I took off, that pissed them off. They probably thought I was going to make a bunch of cases for them, but that didn't happen. You know,
how did you know you were wanted?
Because I had a case. I mean, I was a fugitive. I fled before my sentencing.
Oh, so you were going through court, and you're just like, I'm gonna take off.
Yeah, I mean, they're talking 20 to life. They're talking 20 to life. You know, this was at the height of the war on drugs. Well, kind of the beginning, like 91. You know, it kind of started like around 88. And my lawyers kept saying, you know, you're gonna do 20 to life. You know, if you don't cooperate, you're gonna do 20 to life. And I was like, you know, I'm a type of dude. You know, I got to look myself in the mirror every day. So, you know, that didn't vibe with me. So I was like, fuck it. You know, I'm gone. I'm out of here. I don't want to deal with it. You know,
was it stressful being on the run?
I would say at first, you know, because at first when you're like 20 years old and the feds come in and basically, you know, almost everybody on my case, you know, basically told. So, you know, they know everything, right? So it's like crazy. Like you think the feds have like this all-seeing universal eye or something. So yeah, when I was first went out, like the first couple months, I was kind of looking over my shoulder. I thought they were going to find me, but, in reality, nobody knew where I was. I covered my tracks really good. I was using a fake ID. I had identity and a different name. And I'd covered my bases, pretty good. So it was just like my own paranoia, so, but that didn't last. I'd say 2-3 months. And then I kind of started getting my mojo back, started going out, meeting people.
Close brushes with the law where you almost get caught?
One time, I went out to California first. So I was in California for about 6 months, and then I ended up in Dallas, Texas. Yeah, one time in Texas, in a mall, there was a situation. It was a guy I was with, and I don't know. He was like shoplifting stuff. He was like kleptomaniac or whatever, and and the cops came after him, and like they came at both of us, and I didn't know what the fuck. I didn't even know he stole anything, so I didn't know what. So I took off. But they weren't even looking for me. So,
man, that could have been your downfall right there. Could have been where your sentence started, right? So how did they catch you? How did the situation happen for them to catch you? Or you?
Well, I never told myself that I'm not that type of dude. So they got to catch me. Like that movie, Catch Me If You Can. Yeah. And they did. They did eventually after about 2 years. But I was running weed. Because I was. I wasn't working. I was living on the underground economy. So I was running weed from Dallas, Texas up to St. Louis. And eventually some guys got busted, and I got arrested on some bullshit state charge, for a little bit of weed. And they matched my prints, but I got away from that, but they matched my prints. But as soon as they matched my prints, they called in like the U.S. Marshals, like, regional task force. And they were like on everybody I knew in St. Louis. And eventually somebody gave me up.
So then you go right in, right? Because you're already sentenced, basically?
No, I wasn't sentenced. So I had to go back and I got sentenced. So my original charge was 20 to life. And then I got an obstruction justice charge for taking off. And then they hit me with like a failure to appear in a fraudulent use ID. So basically I got like 60 extra months for taking off. So I went from 240 to 304.
So looking back, would you do the same thing again?
Yeah, I would do it. I just want to get caught.
But you would take off. You want it.
I mean, if I had the benefit of everything I know now, as an older man, I mean, because when you're young, when you're 20, you're 21, 22, I mean, you think you know everything, but you don't. You think you don't. I mean, I'm 52 now, and I know a lot of stuff, but I still don't know everything. But when you're 22, 20, you think you know everything, and I was a smart kid. I was a very intelligent kid. I was reckless. I was bold, but I was naive in a lot of ways. I was very naive, looking back, I can see, so if I could go back in time, and have my older self tell my younger self, I mean, I would tell a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff that hopefully would have helped me out. Yeah. Cause prison sucked. I mean, I wouldn't want to go to prison. 21 years in prison is garbage, man. It's bullshit.
Especially when you're that young, you feel like your life's over, right? What was your thoughts when you're getting sentenced to that time? You got to face all that time. What was going through your head?
Yeah, so I got 304 months. In the feds, they give you months. They don't give you years. So 304 months is 25 years and 4 months. So when I got that sentence, I was only 22. So I had more time than how old I was. So, I mean, it was like, there was a light at the end of the tunnel, but it was like a long tunnel. So I had to go in. I started out, I never went to the USPs. That's like the highs. I started out in the medium highs. So, if you were under 25 and if you weren't a killer, they sent you to the mediums, even if you had that amount of time, they didn't send you to the highs, because in the USPs, they say boys fight, men kill. I was put into the medium highs where it was like a gladiator school. You just had to fight. And a lot of times you got to fight your own race. That's kind of how it is. You got to kind of make your bones, let people know who you are. But yeah, it was a long tunnel, man. So I was just worried about getting in prison, kind of getting my reputation, so people wouldn't fuck with me, so I can move and kind of live comfortably, staying out of the drama. When I first went in prison, this old head told me, this old white dude who'd been in and out all through the 80s. He was like a bank robber, like a real criminal. And he told me straight up, he's like, don't gamble, don't do drugs, and don't fuck with punks. He's like, if you got a problem, come get me. You know, I showed him my paperwork. He's like, okay, your paperwork's good. He goes, if anybody else wants to see your paperwork, tell them to holler at me. You know, people know me in this system. And when I first went in the federal system, it was a lot smaller. So I went in 93. It was only like 50,000 people. You know, now the federal system is probably like 200,000 or something. It kind of grew. You know, they built so many prisons while I was in, especially during the Clinton administration. They probably built like 100 federal prisons. So, you know, it kind of blew up. But yeah, man, you know, I was just worried about, you know, what I had to do there to survive, you know, because prison is not a nice place. You got a lot of you know, fucked up people. You got a lot of people that try to take advantage of you, you know, in all different types of ways. So, you know, I was most important getting in there. I was just like, you know, I wanted to be known as a, you know, go hard convict, crazy white boy, whatever, you know, somebody that would fight, somebody that would handle my business. So that was my main prerogative when I first got in. It wasn't until I'd been in, you know, about 6, 7, 8, 9 years that I started thinking about writing, and I started thinking about my future.
Who are some of the first mob guys you came across?
Yeah, well, I got Italian last name, so I'm Italian and Irish. So yeah, when I first went in, man, a lot of the Italian dudes like they would come to me. I remember when I was in Manchester, I wasn't even sure who they were. They were just like some Italian dudes. I knew they were mob dudes, but I wasn't really into it. It wasn't after I was in a couple years, 2, 3 years, I started reading the books about all these dudes. You know, because like you're with these dudes. And, you know, a lot of these dudes have inspired movies and stuff like that. So, you know, you're kind of like, who are these dudes? So I started reading books. I'd say the most notable dudes I was around, I was with Anthony Graziano, TG, you know, from the Bananos. I was around Michael Perna. He was the New Jersey faction of the Lucchese's. I was around Joe the German Watts. So he was with Gotti, you know, but he wasn't made because he was half, you know, I don't know, German or Welsh or something.
Did he tell you any stories, the German?
Yeah, these dudes were just like, I mean, like these dudes would literally, like they would hold court. I mean, because a lot of them, they had some money, you know what I'm saying? So in there, I mean, most people are broke. You know, most people make like $525 a month. You know what I'm saying? That's like maintenance pay. You know, maybe you make grade 4, you make $25 a month. Yeah. So these mob dudes, I mean, they got a lot of money. They're putting money. So I just remember Joe Watts. He was in the unit below me, and there, you know, he bought all the cells like next to his, like, you know, about 5 cells. He bought all the cells, and he moved in who he wanted to move in. So, you know, he had like his cook in a cell next to him. He had like his cleaner. He had like his workout partner. He had like a couple of his homies. So, you know, because he had money, so he could do that. And basically, he wouldn't go to chow hall. You know, he would have dudes who cook him food, or he would cook food. He wouldn't go to the commissary. He'd put money on dudes' books, and they would get commissary, and they'd bring him big bags of commissary. And, you know, you just kind of notice, I was in FCI Beckley with him, and dudes like them, they just kind of move differently, you know, because they got the respect and they got the money. But also, you know, when he was in, he was probably like, you know, 50 something years old. I mean, he was like a hardened criminal, like a mafia dude, you know, and they always say, like in the Gambinos, he wasn't made, but he was basically like an honorary capo, you know, because he earned so much money for John Gotti. So these dudes, they just get big respect. I mean, Joe Watts, I mean, nobody fucked with him. You know, dudes were always trying to cater to him. So I was just a young Italian kid. So, you know, I had some contact with him. I would say, what's up? But, you know, it wasn't like we were friends or I was hanging out in the cell. But I would see him because he was in a unit right below me. And just because I had Italian last name, he would like, you know, like when I first got there, he'd be like, what are you in here for? You're not a snitch. What time are you doing? What's your family from? You know, he quizzed me, and then he figured I was okay. Nobody said nothing bad about me. So he would just like, you know, give me a head nod. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes if he had some extra food, you know, he might be like, oh, come over, bring your bowl. You know, give me a bowl of some pasta with gravy or something, you know?
Now, someone like him wants to buy a cell, right? How does he go about to buy cells and things like that?
Well, you got in there basically, you know, cigarettes. At that time, cigarettes were money, or stamps. So, you know, the dudes run like gambling tables, and you rent gambling tables. I even think Joe Watts had a gambling table in his unit. And, you know, he was like a bookie too. And you use stamps. Stamps is like the currency. Stamps or sometimes cigarettes. And then, you know, also they could do what they would do, like put money on your books. So he could go to someone and he'd be like, hey, man, I want this cell. I'm going to give you $100. You know, maybe 2 guys in the cell. Look, you guys find a different cell, I'm gonna put $100 on each of your guys' books. And then another way, the third way where you can pay for stuff is like a street to street transaction, where somebody like Joe Watts would get his people on the street to send money to your people on the street. So that's basically the three ways. The currency in there, like stamp cigarettes, or it could even be commissary. They could buy $100 worth of commissary. But it wasn't that hard if you had money. But a lot of people, sometimes they wouldn't, sell, let you buy their cells. But somebody like Joe Watts, he had influence. He could call on other people on the compound. So if it's a black dude, he could go to the black shot callers and he could say, "Hey man, I want to pay your people to get out of the cell. They're acting like they won't want to move." So then he would have to grease that shot caller's palms and give him some money. So if you got money, it's just like, in the streets. If you got money, and you got a little bit of influence and you're persistent, anything's possible.
Part 2 coming soon. Make sure you guys hit the like button. Don't fuck around. Hit the notification bell. And remember, don't be a bitch. Peace.